When I think about something like Surge, it almost feels to me like we're going from a phase where people are, if I like walk into a room without any lights on, it's like pitch black. I'm trying to feel around, figure out where I am, walk down the hallway, find doors and stuff like that. But it's really hard to know what I'm doing, and I have to go really, really slowly. And
Yeah.
I never really get a really good picture of what's actually happening until I find a light switch and I turn it on and I realize, oh, here's what the room looks like. Here's all the doors I can go into. Is that a
Yeah.
roughly like is that the right way to look at Surge as a product? Like you're kind of illuminating the Lightning experience for new users?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right. And like that's been again what we heard a lot from customers is being like there's so much that is unknown inside of Lightning, like inside of a node, and like what is happening for your given node. And so that's exactly what we want to do is like there's all these things of like why did X, Y, and Z happen, and we want to like find what those weird things are and just bring them to the surface. So it's just very obvious, and it's not so moving around in the dark. And so yes, like that's a great analogy, and it's one that we're very focused on solving. In that there's so many unique pieces of data and like aspects of Lightning that we don't want it to be like again, everyone's learning this new language, this new service or whatever. We want to just make it obvious and give those recommendations, especially when we think about traditional fintechs. If they're getting this like routing error or something like that in their node, they might not like really understand that. They might need to take 2 hours to go and debug, like research what is this, how do we fix it. Where if we can just say, hey, you got a routing error, this is probably the reason, this is what you can try to fix it, that's going to save people so much time. And that's going to be the big differentiator in people coming into Lightning or not coming into Lightning. If we have to teach every single person out there that wants to integrate it everything there is to know from ground zero to everything that they need to know, is they're not going to do it. So we need to give them these tools to really not be in the dark all the time.
Right. This kind of reminds me of a book I read about. It was about the history of Paris, and there was a segment in it talking about how lighting transformed the city. And
Mm.
prior to street lamps, it was as soon as it was dark, everyone just kind of went home. And if you were out on the street, you're at risk of a lot of crime. There's nothing fun to do because there's nowhere to go. You can't really see where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
But afterwards, the city kind of came to life, and it created all these new kind of like follow-on effects of people now enjoying strolls down the main street after dark, and all sorts of like exciting evening activities in the city. I'm curious to know what impact will this illumination of Lightning have on the Lightning network itself. Are we going to see any structural changes in the way the Lightning network works? Are we going to see people make different decisions about how they allocate liquidity, who they connect to? What are your kind of early views on how people might change their behavior when they have all this extra data?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think I guess there's two parts of that. I think one is that people are going to be more efficient with their capital. I think to date, like people in Lightning have just open up channels anywhere. Some people kind of look closely at it, some people don't. But I think even the people that are trying to look closely, there's a lot of gaps. And so something that we have in Surge right now is like a view of your channels over time. But we also mark them as like online, offline, but also like online, but online but not used. So being able to show like, hey, this channel is online, it's fine, but like you're actually not routing any payments through it. You've never sent a payment through it. You've never received a payment. So it's kind of like just dead capital. And so being able to bring that to the forefront where, hey, maybe close that channel and redeploy that into a new area of the network. So I think that being able to give those insights into people so people can make more informed decisions rather than just trying to open up channels into random places. I think being able to surface a lot of that data will help a lot in having more useful capital deployments, because not only does that help a person that's maybe trying to earn some routing fees or whatever, it helps the network as a whole because they can very clearly see, hey, this is where the demand is, these are where payments are going, so we need to facilitate capital into those areas. And then the second piece is really helping and actually driving like true Lightning usage. So when I kind of described in my last answer on we are trying to make it so people don't have to be in the dark about all of these different weird errors and data and everything inside of the Lightning node. I think a comment that people would probably throw at that, like on Twitter or something, is like, well, just use a custodial solution. Like, you don't have to worry about any of that. Just go custodial. Well, and that's something that we're very focused on at Voltage, is being non-custodial, or like doing everything true to Bitcoin. So having real Lightning nodes, having real Lightning channels, everything is really there, and people can have the control over all of those aspects. And so this surge is going to be a huge unlock in being able to enable that for more people. So it's not such this difficult thing for people to come and integrate Lightning, and then they just end up going custodial the whole way. We want to give people a similar experience to like a custodial solution, but have them still have this true Lightning experience. And so I think it's going to help a lot in actually enabling people to use Lightning non-custodially, being able to run their own nodes, and being able to operate in a much more comfortable space than having this weird dark room like you mentioned. And so that's also an important call out, is like Surge is made for not only Voltage nodes, but also nodes that run outside of Voltage. So you could be running a node at home and plug it into Surge and get these same visibility. So ultimately, it's going to help people actually shift more into running their own nodes and actually participating in the network in a true fashion, which I think is going to be very important. It's going to be very nice for the network over time, where we see things like node growth and whatnot trending upwards. So I think that those are the two big unlocks that we see happening.